Point and click games are a familiar genre for anyone born before 2010, and many individuals have interacted with them at some point. Regardless of personal preferences, I would like to share my thoughts on a recently played point and click game that left a strong impression on me. Hi, my name is Mirte, and today I'm going to talk about The Silent Age. The Silent Age is a classic point and click adventure puzzle game, which involves solving puzzles by interacting with various objects within the game. As the name implies, this interaction typically entails pointing and clicking with the mouse. Developed by House on Fire, a Danish indie game studio, the first part was released in 2012, followed by the second part in 2014. The Silent Age received the Danish Spelprisen Award for Artistic Achievement in 2014 and for sound design in 2015. Originally launched for mobile devices, the developers opted to also release a PC version with the second installment. The narrative revolves around Joe, an ordinary janitor employed by a large corporation. His life takes a dramatic turn when he learns that he must save humanity from a deadly virus through time travel. To avoid spoiling the experience, I will refrain from sharing additional plot details. Thomas Reed, one of the designers, reveals on his website that the game's inspiration stems from his passion for urban exploration. The game features a simplistic art style reminiscent of the 1970s, harmonious color palettes, an intriguing soundtrack, and exceptional voice acting that adds depth to its characters.
Miss Goulet?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, something's bad. The downstairs handkerchief has basement all over the blood. No, I mean,
Good heavens, Sugar. That rag's got blood all over. Have you hurt yourself again?
I thoroughly enjoyed my time with this game. It strikes a perfect balance between challenging puzzle solving and moments of feeling like a genius. The game fully engaged me from start to finish, providing both excitement and relaxation. I believe that many players would resonate with my perspective. However, this is not prominently reflected in the reviews on the Apple Store and Steam page. While numerous players express their admiration for the game, a notable portion critiques it for being overly simplistic and short, questioning its value. But what leads to these sentiments? Why do players sometimes criticize the game for being too simple or too short? Let's first consider the genre of point and click games. This was one of the most popular genres in the 1980s and 1990s, with many well-known titles such as King's Quest, Beneath the Steel Sky, and Monkey Island. In the mid-1990s, interest in the genre declined significantly. By the 2000s, it was largely considered vintage. Although it remains more popular in some regions such as Europe, for example in Germany, point-and-click games continue to have a higher player base compared to other parts of the world. According to the book, The Art of Point-and-Click Adventure Games, this regional popularity is partly due to greater control over violent content in other games. If you're interested in learning more about the history of point-and-click games, I highly recommend this book, The Art of Point-and-Click Adventure Games, which is filled with beautiful artwork, insightful interviews, and detailed overview of the developments of the games. A key reason for the genre's previous success was its stunning graphics and technological advancements. But as technology progressed, other genres emerged, overshadowing point-and-click games. And each trend has its life cycle, and between 2010 and 2015, there was a brief resurgence of the genre, yet it has not returned to its former glory. When discussing classic point-and-click titles from the 90s, most individuals will mention The Secret of Monkey Island and its sequel, which remained beloved titles. Notably, Monkey Island 2 was groundbreaking for its time, featuring advanced graphics, music, and sounds that interacted with mouse commands. While reading the comments on The Silent Age, I came across a review that mentioned rather similar to the idea that it's not a bad game, but it may never reach the same level of greatness as the LucasArts titles. And this got me thinking. For example, Monkey Island 2 was an excellent game, but is it truly that much better than The Silent Age? Or was it simply just a very good game for its time, and did it become one of the favorites? The popularity of Monkey Island 2 can be attributed to its innovative graphics, which The Silent Age also possesses, dynamic music and sounds that vary by environment, well, similarly featured in The Silent Age, and voice acting that brought characters to life, again, also featured in The Silent Age. Do you get the point I'm trying to make here? It is important to recognize that The Silent Age is a shorter gaming experience, generally talking about 2 hours to complete, yet it is priced comparably to Monkey Island 2 today. However, The Silent Age was developed by a small indie studio, contrasting with larger companies that have established a series of successful titles. House on Fire, the studio behind The Silent Age, had only one prior release, and it was not even a point and click game. There are several specific elements in The Silent Age that added to my personal gaming experience that I'd like to talk about and maybe shine a different light on the game. The soundtracks in the game adapt to the environment, serving as an additional element that is not overly noticeable when fully immersed in the puzzles. Initially, I did not fully appreciate this feature, but after playing other point and click games, where the same tune repeated constantly, becoming quite tiresome, I came to truly value the audio director's thoughtful choices in the game from the Silent Age. Additionally, I often struggle with puzzles, and it can take time to find solutions, frequently backtracking and re interacting with objects. While it's great when the main character comments on these objects, hearing the same lines repeatedly can become frustrating. This experience was pronounced in Beneath a Steel Sky, leading me to feel inept.
I'm not picking it up. I don't even know what it is.
However, this does not apply when playing Silent Age, as the game does not voice the main character's Joe's thoughts. As a result, it's fairly easy to overlook the written text above and remain focused on solving the puzzles without being distracted. The puzzles in the Silent Age are not particularly difficult. The game was designed to be accessible to the average player like myself, so it doesn't create a sense of frustration or feeling unintelligent. That being said, there are some puzzles that are more challenging, providing satisfying moments of achievement, those small I'm a genius victories that can make puzzle games so enjoyable. And yes, I can also understand that for experienced puzzle gamers, these puzzles may feel quite straightforward and predictable, potentially making the game seem too simple. However, not everyone has the same level of experience, and that's perfectly okay. The reason why I sometimes find puzzle games challenging is that I can come lost in the scene due to the abundance of details in the artwork. While I do appreciate detail and visually stunning artwork in games, identifying the correct interactive object needed to solve the puzzles can be difficult. Thomas Reed, the artist from the Silent Age, considered this feeling when designing the visuals. He dedicated considerable time to perfecting the backgrounds and color schemes to ensure they matched and felt cohesive for players. As he explains in detail on his personal website, Reed mentions that he spent more time matching colors and contrasts than the actual drawing process to achieve the right balance and overall clarity in the scenes. This careful approach reflects their intention not only to create an aesthetically pleasing game, but also to ensure that it is visually practical and playable. As an aspiring game designer, I find this approach very valuable. Finally, there is one final detail that is quite minor but still interesting. When I discovered it, it brought a smile to my face. While playing, I had to walk through a large hallway to reach the other end, and I was feeling a bit impatient to continue with the story. Instead of clicking once to move forward, I started clicking rapidly. And suddenly Joe began sprinting down the hallway as if he sensed my impatience. The developers included a sprint function triggered by double clicking, which is a thoughtful feature for players who may be eager to progress quickly. While it may seem like a small detail, I appreciate how this shows the developer's consideration for the player experience throughout the game. Yes, it is a point and click game that was released a few years later than the peak period of the genre, and it's understandable that not everyone may be a fan of this type of game. The puzzles are fairly straightforward, and the theme has been used before in other titles. Additionally, the game is relatively short, offering around 2 hours of gameplay, which many players complete in one sitting, and it was priced at approximately €10. But in exchange, you receive a beautiful audiovisual gaming experience with compelling storytelling developed by an indie studio. And I believe it's a great option for relaxing after a busy day, and it doesn't even require extensive gaming experience. Knowing all the small details that the developers thoughtfully implemented into their game demonstrates their genuine care and dedication, and I hope that next time when you leave a review of a game that you might think of this video and try to look at all the values the game has to offer. In my opinion, this game is well worth the price I paid for it. However, if you're still unsure about its value, I recommend waiting for it to go on sale and try it for yourself. Because personally, I give the makers of this game a chef's kiss because they really cooked up something amazing here. That wraps it up for this video. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to know more about things I talked about today, you can find the links in the description down below. I wish you a nice day and goodbye.